Reginald Sharpe Jr. preaches at Keion's church.
Ain't nothing like a good connection. Cornbread and collard greens. That's a good connection. Peanut butter and jelly. I don't care how rich you get. There's still something holy about a peanut butter and jelly. That's a good connection. Salt and pepper. That's a good connection. Chick-fil-A nuggets with Polynesian sauce. That's the Holy Ghost. That's a good connection. Neck bones and rice and gravy. That's a good connection. Batman and Robin. That's a good connection. Rest in peace, Frankie Beverly and Maze. That's a good connection. Watching the game and being left alone. That's a good connection. A good pair of high heels with the right pair of flats. That's a good connection. And Pastor Keion Henderson, Lady Shani, and the Lighthouse Church. This is a good turn up for your church. The person beside you is not just your pew partner, they're your life partner. I want you to smile at them and say, I'm glad I sat by you. Hey, my next job may be in your phone. You may be the next millionaire in Houston. I'm glad I'm connected to people that keep my nets clean.
But let's talk about it here on All Things Theology. Cue my theme music. Yo, grace and peace. Welcome back to another episode of All Things Theology, where this is your host, K-Dub. Today, we're going to be talking about a sermon that was actually preached at the Lighthouse Church, that's Keion Henderson's church, but it was by Reverend Sharpe Jr. They are celebrating the 15th year anniversary of Keion's church, and they brought in a few pastors. We're going to look at a sermon from Reverend Sharpe Jr. again, and it was actually a sermon that Keion preached very similar. It's going to the similarities in these sermons are actually quite astonishing because they preach from the same text. And Keion Henderson's text from like 3 weeks ago was called "From Chaos to Clarity." Well, Reverend Sharpe Jr.'s sermon is called "Notes from the Net," and they're preaching the exact same passage. And if you thought Keion, we looked at that sermon. If you thought Keion's sermon was confusing, this one is actually going to be on a whole nother level. So let's get into it. I'm going to let you hear the text he's reading. Then we'll get into it.
Once while Jesus was standing beside the lake of Gennesaret, Luke chapter 5, verse 1. Once while Jesus was standing beside the lake of Gennesaret and the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he saw two boats there at the shore of the lake. The fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. Let the church say nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little way from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. When Jesus had finished speaking, he said to Simon, whose name will later be changed to Peter, hey, bro, put out into the deep water, and let down your nets. Somebody say nets for a catch. Simon answered and said, respectfully, Jesus, Mr. Master, we worked all night long and we have not caught a tadpole, a crappie, a brim. We have not caught a minnow. We've caught absolutely nothing. Yet, if you say so, I will let down the nets. Let the church say nets. When they had done this, they caught so many fish that their nets, say nets, their nets were beginning to break. I want to talk today very simply from this thought, notes from the nets. Thank you. You may be seated. Notes from the nets. Tell the neighbor beside you on your way to your seat, you don't know it. Come on, put your preaching voice on. Say, you don't know it, but you need some notes from the nets.
Now, we're about to hear some sermon is going to be notes from the nuts, because that's what this sermon is going to be. Very nutty. But I wanted you to hear the text that he was preaching so you can hear the rest of the sermon that had nothing to do with what he's talking about.
I'm tired of the church.
Now, speaking of not having to do with the text, I want you to listen to this.
Prepare for a great catch. And Pete said something in his mind before he let it out his mouth. Some of y'all know what that is, to say something in your mind before it comes out of your mouth.
Now, I want you to hear what he attributes to Peter, because he's just making this up. The text doesn't say this. The text doesn't even indicate any of this. But listen to what he asserts into the mind of Peter, as if he knows what Peter's thinking now, I guess.
Mouth, because you know if you really said what you wanted to say, there's going to be some issues in the relationship. And I wasn't there, and I didn't ask Peter what he said, but I believe he said something like this: hey, Mr. Jesus, I heard you and all, but you are a rabbi, you are a teacher, and you don't know anything about fishing. And respectfully, Jesus, we've been out all night long. I have not had any deodorant. I have not had my Starbucks. I have not had anything to refresh myself. I've not been able to go to Breakfast Club and get me any food. I am hungry. I am irritated because I'm not just out here fishing because I have nothing to do casually. I am a commercial fisherman, and to be out all night long and not catch anything is an embarrassment to my business. And here you are in the morning telling me to do a nighttime job. And I believe he said all that in his mind, but the only thing that came out of his mouth was, Master, we've toiled all night and we've caught nothing, but yet if you say so. But before you get there, have you ever written an email and you had to delete the whole email because if you had pressed send on what you initially thought? Come on, I'm talking to my real people right now. Yeah, you cussed them out in your head, but all they heard was, I'll pray about it. But
this sounds personal, sir.
No. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Why would you say that? Why would you say that?
This sounds very personal. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people's sermons, the pastor, preacher, the person that goes up to preach, a lot of what's going on in their personal life becomes the sermon just because they messy.
They had gotten the first draft or your first thought, because sometimes you are tired, you are irritated, you have tried, you have dated, you have given your all, and you're just like Peter. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to date again. I'm good being single, because when I put myself out there.
Yeah, it is definitely personal. What did catching a fish had to do with dating again? My goodness, man.
All I was met with was pee in the swimming pool. I don't want to try again. Where are my real saints? Because the truth is, some of y'all tonight, as good as this singing has been, you are tired tonight, and you saying one of y'all need to give me a trophy just for showing up. I'm tired. I'm tired of being the only one in my family people call on when they need something, but when I need people, they just mysteriously disappear.
Yeah, this is definitely personal. This is definitely personal. You want a trophy for showing up to church, sir? That's what you're supposed to do. My goodness. Again, if you think it's bad now, it's going to get worse. Let's check this next one out.
Jesus is teaching.
I have this clip entitled, "If These Nets Could Talk."
Voice, Peter's tired voice, and yet his trusting voice comes through the text, because he says, yet I will do it. But there's another voice just reaching out of the text. And when I was walking through this particular passage, I heard something sound like this. Psst. And I leaned up into this text, and y'all, the net in the text started talking to me. And
No.
Oh my goodness. So this is going to be bad. So he was doing his studying, and he heard the psst. We got a question.
Say, is that all? Is that all?
So he heard a voice, and apparently this is allegedly God speaking, I guess. But he says, hey, he was studying the text, and he came across this passage and noticed the net started talking. Now, go read that passage. The nets ain't saying nothing. The nets are inanimate objects. They don't communicate anything. But he's going to make this huge point about the net speaking. And if you're confused now, don't worry. I have a PhD in foolishness. I'll clear it up for you.
The net in the text said, I'm really irritated with you 21st century preachers and prognosticators of the pulpit, because everybody preaches everything in this text except me.
Yeah, for good reason. That's for good reason, sir.
Turn off the lights.
There's a good reason nobody's making a huge emphasis on the nets. That's because they're not a huge emphasis. You know, he actually started this sermon off was like, I'm not going to spend, preaching a lot about Jesus in this passage or the disciples. Well, then you've actually missed the whole point of the passage if that's not the point of your sermon. But let's keep going.
He said, but the truth is, I know how it feels to be the people you preaching to, and y'all won't let me talk. The net told me I know what half the room at Lighthouse is feeling tonight, and I dare you to move out the way and let me preach. Can I tell you that Reverend Sharpe has exited the building, and Reverend Net is going to carry the rest of the message?
Let's hear it.
Because Reverend Net told me to tell you he knows what it feels like to be called to carry something, and you wonder if you can hold yourself together while you're holding stuff for other people. The net told me to tell you I know exactly what it is to be formed and function with a purpose for pressure. And while you are formed and function to carry the pressure, it doesn't cancel the fact that you still have moments where even you don't know how you're going to make it to the other side. And it ain't all your stuff you carrying. Some of y'all are tired because you carrying other people's fish.
Sir, speaking of fish, this stinks.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
And we have another thing to say.
You got to stop doing that. You've got to stop doing that.
So where are we in the passage, sir? That's all we have a question.
Can we talk for a minute? The Bible says.
So apparently the nets are speaking. I don't recall that in the passage. I don't recall any of this in the passage. But again, if you think this is bad, the nets are going to say some more nonsense.
In the deep. And the net said, also, I'm at my best when I get dropped. It's not.
Oh, so he made this whole point about the net being in the dark, being in the deep, and all this other nonsense. But here's the conclusion of the point.
Until I'm dropped, that I can carry what I've been called to carry. I work my best in the dark, I work my best in the deep, and I work my best after I get let down. So for all of you that can only shout when you get lifted and uplifted, you got to be more mature than that, because the truth is God revealed your best power in the deep, in the dark, and after you got dropped.
Now, this is what we call good old perspectivalism, where you make a point of the passage. I mean, it's a code word for a particular kind of exegesis, right? The passage isn't about our power and the net representing. So now the net is representing us. Again, this is why I say this sermon is very similar from Chaos to Clarity by Keion Henderson, but it actually contradicts some things he said. So which one should we go with? Which net sermon should we go with, right? Just utter foolishness. But again, he got some more foolishness. He ain't done.
Wait a minute. It's too early for y'all to cut up. High five somebody and say, I'm glad they let you down.
Hold on a second.
Get your hands off me!
Look at how powerful you are. Look at how effective you are. Look at how wise you are. Look at how gifted you are.
Yeah, a lot of this sermon had to do with the inner goodness of man. See, you're good. You're great. Just keep going. Just pull up those bootstraps and you're the net. You're meant to do it. The Bible has a totally foreign, contradictory, opposite message than you're so great. You know, you read the Bible, it's like, yeah, you're a worm. You're not that great. You know, insert the Billy, what was it? The what's the film with Adam Sandler? He's the golfer. I was wrong. You were right. That's man, right? I'm not good. You're great. That's us. You know, to God, right?
Baby, you got cuter after he dropped you.
Oh my goodness.
Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
So the nets being dropped now symbolize you being dumped by somebody and you looking better because they dropped you. How does this even make any sense? Look at him. He thinks he made a good point with that lime green key lime suit he got on.
So people think you shouting because you on the platforms of power, and the truth is you just learn how to shout in the deep, in the dark, and even after you got dropped.
Oh my goodness. How do people actually sit here week after week and hear complete nonsense and say, yeah, that's a good sermon?
a minute, because I'm about to disrupt hell right through here.
Uh-oh.
Because somebody gave up on yourself. You gave up on God. You just haven't told nobody yet. So do me a favor and put your fist to your neighbor's fist and say, neighbor, I got a word for your life. Try again. That's the wrong neighbor. They ain't holler back at you. Find another neighbor and put your fist to their fist and say, try again. Dream again. Apply again. Go to school again.
I want you to notice how man-centered this sermon is. It's a theological term, anthropocentric. It is very man-centered. Because it looks very inward. You need to do this. You need to do. At the end of the day, it's very kind of works-based. You want to succeed? You need to try harder. Try again. Look to yourself. Where the Bible's message is, we look to Christ. Again, that's what I'm saying. Even in the practical theology of this sermon, the focus is wrong because it's still at you, at the basis of yourself.
Date again, tithe again, try church again, get up again. I fell down 7 times, but I got up 8 because now on the hill, wait. So you, like the net, have to forgive yourself for the failure. No.
When was the net loathing and self-loathness or like unforgiveness of their self? I hate the concept of forgiving yourself. You don't need to forgive yourself. You need to be forgiven by God first and foremost. But when was, even if you want to apply that context, when was the net struggling with self? Like the net had bad low self-esteem. Come on, man. Preach the Bible.
So you can still be who God called you to be for the future.
Complete nonsense.
Am I making sense?
No, you're not. None whatsoever. The fact that these people are saying yes shows how biblically illiterate they are. But let's get to our next clip.
The first day stayed on the phone. This isn't an exaggeration. 2 hours.
Oh, so he's explaining how he got locked out of his computer. I want you to listen to this. This is going to be quite comical.
They could not help me get back in my laptop. I gave up. My spirit was irritated. I tried again the next day. I was on the phone for 1 hour. I said, ma'am, I don't have time to waste. I got a paper due, and I need to get in. And she said, the only way that this is going to be fixed, it won't be resolved over the phone. You need to come in. I said, it's 9 a.m. How early can I come? She said, get here at 11:50. I said, I'll be there. Y'all, I was there at 11:15. Because you know it's real when you show up earlier than the time that they gave you. I'm just going to sit there in the corner waiting on my turn. Y'all, the first day it took 2 hours. Second day it took 1 hour. I went to the Apple store. It took 10 minutes. And while I was grateful, I looked up at the Apple tech support person. And I said, now, how come y'all couldn't do this over the phone? Why y'all put me through all of this? She said, well, what happened was you kept entering so many wrong passwords that the computer set up an invisible white wall against you. So what I just had to do is erase the memory of all your failed attempts to reset you to get back where you need to be. Can I holler at somebody in this room and tell you why you really at revival tonight? God brought you here not to look cute and not to see can the preacher preach. God brought you here to erase the memory of all your failed attempts because he's about to reset you. Somebody open your mouth.
So him going to Apple, I mean, he couldn't find a text to preach what he just preached because it was nonsense. Him going to Apple is really a sermon about us having our memory reset. I mean, I guess about all the failed attempts we had, all the bad relations. Now, some of y'all need to remember the bad stuff you did so you don't go do it again. You know what I mean? I mean, so I have no clue. I have my PhD in foolishness, and even that is kind of dumb, right?
And say, Lord, reset me. I got too much to do to keep talking about what didn't work yet.
And let me just say this. You don't need a reset. You need the hard drive completely changed, right? The problem is the hard drive is the problem, right? You need a whole new hard drive, right? You need a new heart. Let's get biblical. You need regeneration. You don't need a reset to default settings. Default settings are the problem, right? You don't need a blank slate, right?
Today, holler at God and say, reset me, reset me. Reset my mind, reset my church, reset my pastor, reset my children, reset my marriage.
Reset this sermon.
Sometimes that's your whole prayer from now until December. Lord, reset me. Look down your row and pass down the message like you playing telephone and say, try again. Try again, daughter. Try again, son. Who am I preaching to tonight? Try again.
Here's what I don't get. You got this bad of a track record and your advice to them is to try again? You need to tell them, no, lean on Christ. Our track record, let's bring it all to us, right? Our track record is bad. We see what happens. We try again. We need to lean on him, right? My goodness.
Go back to the same bank that declined the loan the first time. They're going to say, what you doing back here? The Lord said, try again.
Yeah, let's see if they get you a loan, boy.
Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Let's see that the Lord told me try again. Denied. The Lord don't approve makes here. This is nonsense.
Oh, he's able.
Oh my goodness, man. All that to get to his real point about the bank, right? Oh my goodness. Well, he's going to get back to the Nets. Let's hear what else he has to say.
Ain't nothing like a good connection. And you can ask Teddy Riley, ain't nothing like a bad connection. Y'all remember in the pandemic when they were doing the Versus Challenge? I love Teddy Riley, so if he's watching, I love you, bro, but you know what happened. His Wi-Fi was distorted, and I don't care how good his songs were, we couldn't hear it because it was a bad connection. Ain't nothing like a good connection. Cornbread and collard greens. That's a good connection.
It sure is.
Peanut butter and jelly. I don't care how rich you get. There's still something holy about a peanut butter and jelly. That's a good connection. Salt and pepper. That's a good connection. Chick-fil-A nuggets with Polynesian sauce. Help me, Holy Ghost. That's a good connection. Neck bones and rice and gravy. That's a good connection. Batman and Robin. That's a good connection. Rest in peace, Frankie Beverly and Maze. That's a good connection. Watching the game and being left alone. That's a good connection.
This is all personal, man.
A good pair of high heels with the right pair of flats. That's a good connection. And Pastor Keion Henderson, Lady Shani, and the Lighthouse Church. This is a good.
Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Turn up for your church.
How dare you?
The person beside you is.
You was doing good till you got to that one.
Not just your pew partner, they're your life partner. I want you to smile at them and say, I'm glad I sat by you. Hey, my next job may be in your phone. You may be the next millionaire in Houston. I'm glad I'm connected to people that keep my nets clean.
Yeah. The problem with kind of with the ending there is it's just always like people are always using for your come up, right? Why can't you just love people for just, hey, I don't care what you can offer me, right? And I guess there is a connection between Keion and Shani. They're both twice divorced, right? They both can't keep a spouse, right? And so there is a connection. Now, I wouldn't argue that it's good, but it's a connection nevertheless. But I hope you have your ovens preheated. As always, all things theology keeps our oven at a heretical 666. So let's get to it.
Well, let's give God praise for these 2 or 3 that have made a decision tonight.
So it's altar call time, but it's also bread in my pocket time.
Anybody that knows me knows I don't play with God.
You was playing the whole sermon.
Go to every church raising an offering. But when the Lord leads me to, come on. Somebody else come and I felt you. God bless you. Can I shake your hand? That's special right there. You had to make a big decision tonight. Come on. Y'all give it up for my sister.
And let me say this, joining Lighthouse Church is one of the worst decisions you can ever make.
Come on. Anybody else? Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life, I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. Listen, everybody under the sound of my voice who is able. If you're not able, I'm not talking to you. Don't squint your face up. But the Lord has kept this church 15 years. But we don't just celebrate history. We celebrate destiny. 15 plus 15 is 30. Less so for what God has done the last 15 years, and less so for what God will do over the next 15 years. My church, I already talked to my financial team, and I told your pastor, I wish I could send a big check to help y'all finish, but we are sending $2,000 towards your project, and you're going to get it before the month is over.
He's like, I'm going to give you $2,000. Not right now. Not today. You'll get it before the month is over.
But I'm going to keep my word. But tonight, I want everybody to get a seat of $30. And when you get it, stand with me.
I think it's interesting. He said, hey, not everybody has to do this. But then he just said, I want everybody to do it. So, interesting.
Hey, everybody who's able.
Okay, everybody who's able.
Do 30, do 300.
If you can't do 30, do 300. If you can't do 30, if I can't do 30, what make you think I can do 300, right? And he did correct himself on the everybody part. So I apologize for that.
Because some of you all are saying 30, Reverend. I mean, come on now. That ain't a stretch. If you can do 300, you do that. If you can give 30, you do that. If you can give $13, as long as 30 is in it. Some of you.
30 is not in 13. I mean, he's got a 3 in there, but it's not. Anyways.
You can only give $3. Do what you can do. But let's give 30, 300. Some of y'all saying tonight, man, I needed that word. I'm sowing 3,000. Do what the Lord leads you to do.
So, I mean, you just see the fascination with the number 3. You have to give 3,000, 300, 13, or 3, 30 as well. I mean, as long as it's got a 3 in there, you need to give something with a 3.
Somebody is able to do it now. And let me tell you this, without me playing with you, and God is able to do more
than 3,000
than what you sow. All of you who are sowing tonight, 30, 300, 13, 3, stand with me, stand with me, stand with me.
Y'all know what time it is.
I got bread in my pocket. Bread in my pocket. I got bread in my pocket. I got bread in my pocket. I got bread in my pocket.
This sermon was one of the most confusing sermons. It had nothing to do with the text. All this man really preached was the nets. And the nets ain't a big point in the sermon. I mean, it's just the means of how they caught the fish. It's just, but he made this whole relationship of ice, and it just had nothing to do with the passage. Again, why would anybody go to this church after they hear these sermons that have nothing to do with the passage? Matter of fact, I can't imagine someone being new in the faith. They would be more confused hearing these sermons. Again, avoid Sharpe, avoid Keion for sure. Till the next time, grace and peace. Oh, grace and peace. Thank you for watching another episode of All Things Theology. If you enjoyed what you heard today, go on and give me a like. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. I promise to give you weekly lives, videos, interactions, exposing false teachers, sharing with you, the viewer, my theological beliefs, things about the culture, and the Bible. So if you're here for that, come on and join us. Also, if you would like to support this channel financially, you can do so by becoming a Patreon member or a YouTube member. Links are in the description below. You can see content before it drops. You can also have Q&A sessions with also other Patreon members, YouTube members as well. So if you would like that, hit the description link in below.